Welcome back to another episode of Explore. We're glad that you've tuned in. Going to kind of wrap up the 2022 election.
Really? Because according to the news, it could be like till Christmas.
Don't get me started on that. That's a good place to start. They came out Nevada, which the Republicans have a lead in right now for the Senate.
Correct.
They're saying that they hope to have the votes counted by Christmas time.
Yeah, anyway. I mean, I think it's... Why don't we have some really intelligent people... And I'm not saying it to be condescending. Why don't we have some really intelligent companies like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg? I mean, we have some really smart people.
Yeah, they want to make money.
Well, no, but you pay them to set up this system. I don't understand.
The three people that you announced, I don't trust any of them.
I didn't say I trusted them. I said they could find a quicker way to a quicker way to count the numbers.
Yeah, but it reminds me of, you have a child. I don't know if you've watched kids' movies. Zootopia?
No, I don't watch kids' movies.
You ever seen that? There's a sloth in it. That's what they're doing. One. And we'll get there by Christmas with
Grant
the winner.
County got their numbers
Boom.
published that evening.
Yes.
Now, there was only 3,000. I mean, 3,000 maybe. Could be exaggerating.
50% of the county, or 50% of the registered voters voted.
Okay.
I did see that number.
And so what percentage of Grant County adults are registered to vote?
That I don't have. I don't have that.
Because I will say 50% of registered voters is actually a pretty good number.
Yeah, it's not bad. That's pretty good.
It's a good number.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So let's jump into where we are. Of course, we'll go over real quick the people that were up for election in Grant County.
Mm-hmm.
Angela Van Meter, of course, she was running unopposed, and she won for the circuit clerk. Kevin Haggerty, he was running. Well, there was a write-in, I should say.
Correct. There was
he was running unopposed. I guess you're still running unopposed, but then people can write in at any time. So he beat Wes Alexander, who, for a write-in candidate, honestly, not bad. 1/5 of the total. That's actually not bad for a write-in candidate.
No clue.
So
I'm in Hardy County. I voted Tuesday, was it? I did a write-in for my friend Ramiro Vela at Circuit Court. And I don't even think I texted him and told him. I'm just like,
Laura Bennett for county clerk.
mm-hmm.
She had write-ins too. Actually, Angela had write-ins against her.
Not many.
Then the assessor, which I didn't know is an unexpired term. So basically, you run until you retire.
What does that mean?
The assessor. You're the assessor until you decide to retire. It's an unexpired term.
So who's retiring? Who's the assessor that's retiring?
A while ago they did.
Oh, okay.
I think it might happen end of last year, beginning of this year.
And that was a really close race.
Yeah, between Jerry Hours and Beth Mallow.
And Beth Mallow is an independent, or does she have to run independent because
she ran as an independent?
That was good. There's only a 3-point difference between them.
Yeah. So that was your local ones. Now that brings us to these amendments.
Hold on. Don't.
Oh, okay.
I want to just early vote. It is interesting because you hear now on the news between everyone who goes early, all that stuff. But some of the people, well, the only one's really the assessor. So Beth Mallow, she had twice as many votes as Jerry in the early vote.
Yeah.
So this is how I understand how they call an election. They look at early vote. They look at same. And I'm sure that we don't do that in Grant County, but
we just wait till they count the 5 people that voted. And
So, but in the big, the big cities, Philadelphia, DC, whatnot, they actually people who come out and vote, they kind of take a tally of who'd you vote for. So they have different ways that they can actually come up to it. But it is interesting to see that Beth going into election day on Tuesday, she was in the lead by twice as many.
Yeah.
So
and actually a decent amount of write-ins, because there were 2 write-ins that were running also
for assessor.
Ricky Kessner.
Okay.
And I don't know the 4th one. I should know that, but I don't, because I didn't know there was a 4th one until I got there.
And there's not many absentee votes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess 40 maybe.
But they always say, and I mean, she's an independent, but Democrats always do better with absentee ballots.
Okay.
Or early votes. Sorry, early votes. That's how
early voting.
For whatever reason, early voting favors Democrats. I don't know what that is. Republicans come out the day of. That's why, which we'll go to some national too, that's why they're really pitching a fit in Arizona, because the polls went down. 20% of the polls didn't work in Arizona.
Did Grant County have a machine voting?
In my precinct, there was 2 machines.
In Hardy County, my precinct, there was 2 machines.
Yeah, and then you could do write-in paper ballots. Also.
Yeah, either or. Yep.
Yeah, but so that's what they're fighting in Arizona now, because she's like, "Hey, Republicans vote the day of." What, you're telling me 20% of possibly my votes didn't get counted?
Did they keep the polls open longer on Tuesday in Arizona?
I don't know. I'm not there, obviously. I know there was an issue with ink. They didn't have ink.
Oh, I have ink cartridge issues all the time in my house, just for the record.
But you would think that's a pretty important part of the election process, that you would have ink.
As I said, I think we can find, and I'm not talking about Grant County, I think we can find in some of these big districts a much more efficient way to do this.
It boggles my mind. Of course, Georgia going to have the runoff.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, runoff is, if someone doesn't hit 50%, they do a runoff. It's just the top 2. So Herschel Walker, we know him from football, obviously.
Yeah. I remember that guy. The thighs on that guy were massive.
I have big thighs, too.
He would probably make yours look like bean poles. I mean, that guy was known for his thighs. I watched him in college.
Was he a running back or a fullback?
Running back. Yeah.
Well, he was at 48%, and the other guy was at 49. I forget his name. Warnock.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, though, there was an independent, a libertarian,
which goes more conservative.
Correct. Yeah, because Democrats are they don't want the government to leave.
Yeah.
So if you took the votes from the libertarian and give half of them to
Herschel, he
would. So anyway, so the runoff will be without the libertarian.
Yes, December 5th, I believe.
Correct.
Is what
and
they
there's
said.
only those 2. So if you look at that and you say logically, now it depends who comes out.
That's true.
Because there was some studying I did about U.S. history, and the guys like 1 out of every 5 adults picks who the president is. And you're like, 1 out of every 5 adults, you're like, oh my gosh. And it just because America has really poor voter turnout.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, and I don't know if it's high or low for Grant County, I don't know historically, but I do think 50% of the registered voters is a pretty decent number from what I've heard. So,
well, you just need to know how many registered voters there are. I mean, what is Grant County? 13,000, 15,000 people?
I think around 15 is the number I use in my head.
Okay, so
I don't know what number are adults.
Yeah, say 8,000, 9,000 are adults.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
That's, if you have, then how many are registered?
Correct.
So you could have, of 9,000 adults, you could only have 5,000 registered.
There's only 12,000.
12,000 in Grant County now?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little shy. It'll tell me.
Will it tell you the registered voters?
I would have to search.
I wonder if we can kind of get an idea of who voted for what.
Grant County. It was created from Hardy County.
3,300.
County seats, Petersburg. Let's look at demographics.
So here's what I'm looking at. About 3,500 people voted for the most.
Yeah, and even in the others, about 33 was.
So about 3,500 people, let's just say, are voting residents or registered to vote. Well, then if you have 8,000 adults.
Let me tell you here. Here we go. So under 18 is 22.7%. And you can vote when you're over 18.
Mm-hmm.
So 22% of 12,000.
Figure it out in your head real quick.
So, that would be 12. It'd be about 10 10,000, and about 9,500 ish would be eligible to
to vote.
It doesn't talk about if you're an immigrant, if you're legal, because my wife she's not a U.S. citizen, so she wouldn't fall in that number. So about 10,000. If 50% of people showed up, and there was
3,500, so it's about 7,000 are registered,
and so 1,500 aren't. We're guessing, obviously.
Yeah.
So
rounding, rough numbers.
But it's really interesting how it's done, and how people are so. Some people just want nothing to do with this.
Yeah, I talked to someone this week, and I'm like, "Hey, did you go vote?" And like,
I don't vote.
What? It was voting?
No.
I'm like, yeah, that's why everything was closed. And he's like, oh, I don't vote. And I asked him, I'm like, well, you know, if I was going to vote Democrat, there's one Democrat that I would actually vote for. And he's like, who's that person? When I told him. And I'm like, okay, so this guy literally knows nothing about what's going on in the world. And that's not a bad thing, because there's a lot that don't. That just, they don't know. They don't follow politics. They don't care about politics. You know, so listen, when I was young, I did not start voting again until I married my wife.
Until Tuesday.
No, until I married my wife.
Just for the record, JR got married 10 years ago at the age of 40. So.
Yeah. So that was.
Well, I voted to make sure that I canceled my wife's vote. So I voted as soon as I was married, because I'm like,
it's funny because when we get home, my wife and I'll compare votes, and I'm like, honey, you just canceled my vote. What are you doing? She's like, well, I didn't know what to vote for. But so, which brings us to, speaking of not knowing what to vote for, these amendments, and I will say today, I'm going to get a lot of flack from this. I am so glad that my daughter is not in West Virginia schools. I am so glad.
So here's the question. There's two ways to look at it.
Yeah.
Either the people really knew what because not all these amendments were for school.
No.
Either the people really knew what the amendments were for, and were just naive, possible, or the people did know what the amendments were for, because
the fact that they voted all 4 amendments no.
Yeah.
Leads me to believe that they didn't know what they were for.
So, number 1, I voted no for number 1. Am I allowed to say what I voted for?
Yeah, there's no rule against it.
I said no because
Amendment 1 gives like the legislature power to
to make it doesn't allow
decisions.
It to go to a court.
Yeah,
and I
said on who's impeached.
I said I wanted to go before a court.
Yeah,
because our court system in America was set up to keep everybody honest.
Yeah,
whether that's true or not.
And that was voted for by 19%.
I was against
it. I mean, the way you voted is what I was trying to say.
So
they voted that down by
41
19%.
voted for it. Actually, yeah. So anyway,
I'm sorry, 17%. I said 19. I meant 17. I added instead of subtracted.
And it's interesting because the early votes are about 50-50 absentee votes. So that was number 1, and I think. I said when we spoke a couple days ago, the advertising. I mean, people do realize, but people don't realize how advertising.
And I think that paper that went out that was totally dishonest.
It wasn't.
If I could sue the teachers union, I would sue the teachers union because they lied on it.
Listen,
but I talked to another gentleman with the voting, and he says, listen, the mistake was made by the Republicans. He said, you don't put 4 amendments in 1 year.
Okay.
He said, so that was hurt because if one goes down, typically all of them do go down.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting because all of them went down.
Yes, all 4.
So jump to number 3 because number 3 is the one that I thought.
It's illegal.
It had to do with churches.
Yeah, we voted something for something that is federally illegal.
So the federal government says churches have to be recognized as corporations. And we talked to our parents who started the church 30 years ago.
Yeah, who thought it was very odd
that we were an association.
Yeah.
And they said it actually, somebody in the community who was being a little bit of a Karen at that time went and said, listen, you filed it wrong. And they said, we didn't know. And our attorney, who was out of Atlanta, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, didn't know that was the same way. So West Virginia is the only, according to what John Paul Hott and what was the other gentleman's name?
Randy Smith, Senator Smith.
They said we're the only state that's allowed it. So we were trying to just align ourselves with the federal policy or law and whatnot.
And he said, we wondered why we keep getting audited. You know? And, geez, hold on.
Are you drinking again?
No. It's not alcohol. Oh, thanks. Now it's like I just kissed you.
nothing wrong with my USD. I'm USD approved. Listen, I've had so many ultrasounds, sonograms.
Oh my Lord.
There's besides my liver,
Let's
fatty
not
liver,
talk about your fatty liver.
I'm good.
So anyway, so he's like, we wonder why we keep getting audited, and it's because we're not following a federal law.
So that made me kind of say, because we had someone who reached out to us saying, how do I vote?
Yeah.
And so I sat here and said, okay, so number 3
should be a no-brainer.
Unless I'm totally naive to something. Number 3 was like there was nothing good or bad. I mean, it was kind of a neutral thing. Just meant we're a corporation. Unless we're missing something.
Well, maybe people thought that it was the government trying to step in on churches.
But
maybe.
But that goes back to our original point. Did people really know what these were for? I called our insurance agent and said, hey, with our insurance liability and all that, does it matter for a corporation or association? He said,
I loved his answer.
Huh?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So it could just be people didn't know and thought the government was stepping in on churches.
Which is possible.
Which, if that's the case, thank you for protecting churches. But it's a federal law that churches are supposed to be allowed to be corporations.
Yeah.
And here we are as West Virginia now.
We're an association.
Associations.
Anyway.
But that was close. It was the...
It wasn't
300 votes.
It wasn't the closest.
No, it wasn't
the closest. Was number 4. So,
which brings us to Amendment 2.
Yes,
and we're just calling it the car tax because it's not property tax because they were still taxed on your house.
But I want to. But hold on. It was personal. I want to find the wording. It was called personal property. I guess.
Yeah, but that was the biggest one to be shot down. And that shocked me. Because I thought people would really want to pay less taxes.
No.
You want to pay more?
No, I kind of chuckled because I voted against this one. No, I voted for this.
You voted for. We flip-flopped.
I voted for.
When we first did our podcast, and I voted against it because I did not want the government to decide where the local taxes, how they were getting paid.
And my thoughts are, as a business person, anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime you say, hey, do you want to vote for less taxes?
Yeah.
So apparently 35% of voters in Grant County are perfectly fine with the taxes they're paying. So No,
opposite.
Against, 64%. Sorry.
Yeah, 64%, almost 65% of the people
in
are
Grant County are cool with their taxes.
We're fine.
West Virginia, I want to see what the wording was because, my concern was there was a lack of a plan.
That was mine.
And I said that. On the flip side, anytime you tell me we're going to take less money from you, so I was shocked by that one.
My concerns were lack of a plan and giving another bit of power to the state where I felt it should have stayed with local. I'm always less government. I shouldn't say always less government because that brings us to number 4.
But here's the problem. If you have, based on what you said, it depends. I don't care if it's local or if it's state. In my opinion, it depends on which is the better group because there's a time where you're not going to be able to control the local people.
That's true.
So it depends on who's making the decision.
I would tend to trust the local people more knowing where the money needed to go, if that makes sense.
But I don't think I pulled up Amendment 3. I'm like, why is everything on churches? I think the thing is, let me read it. I don't think it was saying that they were going to determine where the money would go. It was going to determine.
Well, they would determine how much money each county got.
Correct.
And that was a little scary.
And I guess they could put earmarks of, hey, it's like the government was working on a law that they were trying to institutionalize the Congress to take over the governing rules of churches instead of the Constitution. So when you hear money's attached to it, there's always a, hey. So here it was. This is Amendment 2. A yes vote supported amending the West Virginia Constitution to authorize the state legislature to exempt personal property, which is machine, equipment, and inventory, used for business activity and personal motor vehicle property tax.
Yeah, so it was only the car tax for the vast majority of people.
I understand.
Then the property for businesses.
Listen, how much? What do I pay a year? $150, $200 for car tax?
I don't know. It would have saved me.
For car tax.
It would have, for even car tax would have saved me a good bit. But with my business, it would have saved me a lot. And I'm thinking of businesses like the power plant and Allegheny Wood, the amount of tax that it would have saved them, and I'm actually shocked that did get voted down.
A no vote opposed amending the West Virginia Constitution to authorize the state legislature to exempt personal property used for business activity and personal motor vehicle tax. So that's the same thing I read.
Yeah.
But listen, say online, say just for the recording, what were the percentages for and against?
65% against and 35% for.
And guess what it was for the entire state?
What was it?
65 against and 35 for.
Yeah.
Same number.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was interesting.
That was a big one. Then
I still can't believe people don't want less taxes.
It is shocking.
Like if you would have said, "Hey, you don't have to pay property tax on your vehicle," I think people. Anyways, I will always.
But they didn't. They
I'll always vote for less taxes.
So then, Amendment 4.
Yes.
The big shock.
And it was the closest. Yeah.
It was the closest. 52% against, 52.5, and 47.5 for. I mean, pretty even. Pretty even. I don't know. I'm just worried. Of course, I don't have to worry about it because my child's not in school. But the Board of Education is ungoverned.
It's the
whatsoever.
It's the only
government institution in West Virginia
where there's no
oversight. They're ungoverned.
Correct.
Not good. Not good for your kids.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, you can get offended watching this. The people in Charleston are flat out liberal nut jobs. I mean, they just are.
You have to look at what's got passed down, right?
Yes.
Because
this CRT, DEI, I tried to post it the day of, letting people know, vote against it, because now, Greene County, they've got to pass that thing that they tabled.
Well, they don't have to pass it.
Well, yes, that's true. They can risk the lawsuit.
But let's say this.
Yeah.
Greene County, the Board of Education, there's 5 of them, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
They can vote, no, we're not adhering to this, and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Because I think I heard, and I forget who it was, somebody said, well, I'd be more concerned if what happened in Loudoun County happened here.
Oh, I'll tell you.
About being sued.
Yes.
And so, it's certainly disappointing, and maybe we're just totally out of touch. I'll never say that we're in touch, but knowing what I knew about Amendment 4, knowing that the people who are making decisions for our kids are not voted in, they're not voted out, they're set by, it's almost like the Supreme Court.
And 9-year terms.
Correct.
I mean, they're not life terms, but 9 years is a long time, and you can do a lot of irrevocable damage in 9 years.
Yeah,
listen,
that's the challenge.
They shut down our schools. Irrevocable damage.
Even the governor doesn't have authority over him, even though he puts them in.
He appoints, but he has no authority over.
Yeah, so that shocked me. So I guess the question comes down to: are we out of touch, or do people not know what they were voting for?
I don't know. I mean, it was I mean, you know.
And maybe what someone told you, maybe people are just, maybe it was too much. And I don't know. I'm not a politician, obviously.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you do it right or wrong. But I am shocked that all 4 got voted down. Because, like I said, the church thing did not affect
anything.
The people.
It just made us legal for federal law.
It didn't hurt people. Didn't help. From my understanding, if we're dead wrong, someone please help us. But even from what the delegates said, even the legislature was in this room, and they're like, it just makes this legal nationwide.
Yeah.
It's like, so I don't know. I mean, that there kind of tells me something. There's some miss.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and
sometimes when you're amending constitutions, maybe people kind of get
nervous,
a little worried about that.
Do you know that America has its original constitution from 250 some years ago? You know how frequently a country, how long a written constitution normally lasts for a country?
25 years?
17
years. I knew it was something low.
In America is over 250. I think it's over 250 years that our written constitution has been here. And the written constitution was put together by very, very Bible-believing, religious people. Even Ben Franklin.
Oh, no. Haven't you heard of, what's the project?
Tell me, 1980?
No, but it's the 1619 project.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
And the problem is...
No, there was nothing in the Bible. Nothing. The country was not based on the Bible.
The least, according to writings, the least religious person was Benjamin Franklin. Okay? And he's the one who stood up when they were trying to take 13 colonies into one country. He's the one that stood up and pretty much... I think it was like a 14 sentence, and referred to 14 Bible verses and 14 sentences and say, we need to pray. And when they did the Constitution, they came together because you had 13 different states. And can you imagine somebody from Virginia agreeing to a New Jersey plan and someone from Massachusetts?
Yeah.
So here's the funny thing, talking about what education's done to us and what the school system has pulled our history out. They don't talk about true history. CRT, they're like, we need to give the whole history. Well, listen, I have no issue with the whole history. The problem is, have you ever heard of the Hoosier State?
Indiana?
Yeah. So I lived in Indiana. That was my first divorce. That was my first divorce, state of Indiana. Second divorce was the state of Illinois. So the state of Indiana are Hoosiers. And that's still the name of the state.
Yeah.
Over 250 years. The Hoosier State, or 230.
That's the basketball team. The Indiana Hoosiers.
Do you know where the name Hoosier came from?
No.
It came from Harry Hoosier, which was a black pastor. So go tell the people in Indiana they're named after a black pastor, Harry Hoosier. Where is that in the history books?
It's not. All we know from the Hoosiers are the movie. Wasn't it the movie?
Who's Your Daddy? When we lived there, that was the funny thing. We said, "Who's your daddy?" So we didn't know, but
there's actually a lot of that going around with the kids now.
But if you look, the history, what they teach us in school is not complete history, and they vote to pull it out.
They've done a very, and I don't want to say they. I think what they're mandating the teachers to teach now.
Correct.
They've done a very poor job.
Correct.
Poor job.
I mean, Michaela, my 15-year-old, and I forget the exact details, she was telling me something about the Civil War. And she's like, no, it wasn't fought over racism. It wasn't fought over slavery. And I'm like, what? The Civil War was all about slavery. We're trying to abolish it, the North and the South. Interestingly enough, the funny thing that people say about the North and the South is the Northerners were actually educated Bible studiers who knew the Bible. The Southerners just said they were Christians, but they had no clue what the Bible said.
The religious people.
Yes. And the religious people really drove slavery in the country. Anyways, I'm doing a big research on it. And when I saw what they've pulled out, of textbooks, they don't talk about in World War II. They don't talk about the Japanese. They don't talk about what happened in Pearl Harbor. They don't talk about the Battle of the Bulge. They don't talk about the Germans. They don't talk about the Holocaust. They talk about America sending 2 atomic bombs and how that was such a terrible thing for America to blow up, into Nagasaki and Hiroshima, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what they're teaching us. And so the school systems is manipulating, and it's voted upon by, and I don't have the data in front of me. It was voted on by the states what actually goes in the book. So the least they tell us about history, the more they can rewrite the history to us.
Yeah.
So,
which now West Virginia has no oversight on what your kids are being taught.
Correct.
Thank you, voters.
Yes. Which is true. Which is
no oversight.
So I will say this, and this is nothing against Mitch or the Board of Education. I mean, I respect them for what they're doing, but I think that private schools and homeschooling, I think that's going to continue to increase. It really is. I mean, there's such a movement about how schools are handling it, and it's nothing against teachers. I mean, this is nothing against our teachers. It has to do with what they're being told to do, because they have no control over what they can teach. They're taught. And
well, you can. Here's what you do.
They could go.
You look at them in the eye and you say, "I'm not doing it. Fire me."
You could do that. You could.
I did that in Chicago with the mask.
I didn't go back to that bagel place for a year and a half. And when I went back, he's like, "Justin, so good to see you." I'm like,
it was funny.
But anyway, so it's a bigger conversation. It's not a one-time fix, but it is disappointing because number 4 did take any of the parents' influence on schools out of it.
Yeah.
It did.
Parents have no influence now.
And little did I know, the Board of Education locally, they have some influence, but their influence is not, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, it's not what we assume it is. So so what I'm saying is be nice to them, because there's stuff that they're told here.
Well, I think the message I would say to the Board of Education is in Grand County is hold strong. Vote that sucker down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get sued, so what? I'll tell you, I would put more money into helping with their lawyer fee for the suit. And my child doesn't go to school. It doesn't even affect my child.
So I'm sure they have. I'm sure if they needed, attorneys, I'm sure we could take care of that. So yeah. I don't think.
Well, you have enough divorce lawyers that know people.
Oh no, I do have a frequent flyer card with attorneys. But anyways, yeah, I mean that's the thing that worries me. My child's in Hardy County, but it doesn't matter.
It's the same thing.
It comes down from the states. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. It's interesting though, and like I said, maybe we are totally, and maybe it's us. Maybe we are totally disconnected.
They're gonna say we're out of touch because we're old school Christians. So you're automatically gonna be said
which is
that you're
possible.
out of touch anyway.
Which is possible. And that's okay. I mean, this is what our country started on, Christianity. Do you know that Washington Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Washington Adams, John
Madison.
Quincy Adams wrote a book for 10-year-olds how to read the Bible? Our president?
Yeah.
So don't let them, anybody who wants, there's over 150,000 documents. So if anybody says America wasn't founded on Christian principles, oh my gosh. I have so much data when I read it. And the problem is the data I have is never taught to us in school.
No.
That's the thing. They're pulling out as much as they can. And they're manipulating and saying stuff. It'd be like King David, right? King David was a very unique king, a horrible father, a horrible husband, a murderer, even though he didn't kill Bathsheba's husband. You're right. Yeah. But so what if the Bible, we only talked about everything David did that was bad? No one would ever read Psalms, We wouldn't have any songs to sing. So that's what you can do. You can take and just kind of shoot one side of it, and that's what the 1619 Project. And listen, there was slavery in America. I don't disagree. There was, and it was wrong. So I'm not saying there was. I'm just saying you have to look at the complete picture of how it started and what it started by. So
well, yeah, I mean, so we talk. I always say, I try to say, what's the cutoff date that we're allowed to talk about slavery? So are we only going to talk about the slaves America held, or are we going to talk about the Egyptians who were slaveholders?
Well, slavery is not.
It's been around forever.
It doesn't mean it's right.
Yes, but they want to talk like America's the only people that have ever had slaves.
So the only questionable thing is we had something called indentured servants. Mm-hmm. And some people say, well, that's slavery. But the problem was indentured service were black people, white people, and it was a way that you could come to America, and after 5 years of working, you'd have a piece of land to your name, so there was it'd be like me going to work for Walmart and Walmart saying, hey, when you're done here for 5 years, we're going to give you,
Listen,
this.
That's done now. That's done when people say...
It's kind of employment.
Okay, yeah. Well, no, but listen, Grant Memorial Hospital will say, we'll pay for your college degree. Mm-hmm. You owe us 4 years of service.
Yeah.
That's an indentured servant. It really is.
The thing is, that's where that's the argument you have against what happened. I mean, it's the argument you have against, I think the guy's name is Anthony Johnson, who had the first slave ever, which was a black man having the first black slave. Some people say, well, indentured servant, so it goes back and forth. But anyways, so I want to see if I can buy you for 5 years.
For 5 years? What do I get out of it?
You get to spend more time with me. I don't know.
Oh, geez, that's a raw deal there.
My wife barely even took me up on that deal. So anyway.
So Republicans right now have the lead in the House. Yep. They are 11 away.
208. Yeah.
11 away. Yeah, from having control of the House.
Yep.
Senate-wise,
it's like I think Republicans are up by 1, I think.
48 to 46, up by 2. I don't know what the 2 others are, though.
Click on it and see.
Yeah, click it and see if it's... No, it doesn't say. I didn't think so. The 2... I've tried to see the 2 others.
Yeah.
And if the others are libertarian, because isn't Rand Paul... Is he considered a Republican or a libertarian?
In Kentucky, I believe he's on the libertarian team. I believe so.
So he could be one of the other 2, which means he's going to vote more Republican. So that does matter what the other 2 are. But we're still waiting on Alaska.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Alaska?
And we are waiting on Nevada.
I know about
Arizona and Georgia.
I thought it was Wisconsin.
Wisconsin went red.
Okay,
it went red.
Georgia's a runoff. That'll be next month.
It'll be December 5th.
You know what's interesting?
Nevada said it could be Christmas or New Year.
This happened 2 years ago with Georgia. It came down to
Stacey
Georgia.
Abrams again.
No. She was going for governor. She's lost twice for governor. First time.
Now she's going to become a teacher at Harvard or something.
Okay, well, that's good.
That's where all the failure liberals go to.
Oh Jesus! Don't say that. So bad. So bad. Maybe it's true. I don't know. But
it's true. Brian Stelter. That's where he's teaching.
Well, they say
from CNN.
They say if you can't do, you teach. That's the old saying we had. And if you can't teach, you become a dentist. Is what I think.
Doctor
can't be a doctor.
Dr. Thorne will love that.
You're welcome. But anyway, yeah. So it'll be interesting how this shakes out. I will say that, and I'm going to be hated for saying this, especially in Grant County. I think Trump is actually hurting things right now. Personally,
I hope.
My opinion.
Listen, I voted for him.
I
twice.
did as well.
I voted for him. Think he did a great job. I tell you what, I loved paying $1.50 for gas. Mm-hmm. I loved making more money and having to pay less taxes.
No, not in Grant County. We want to pay more taxes.
Oh, that's right. We did vote for that.
We voted to
that's
keep
right.
taxes where they were.
Yeah,
but I do think he's hurting.
I hope he doesn't run.
Yeah,
I know he's gonna run, but I hope he just.
I mean, here's the problem. You have him. So I'm just looking at the Senate. You have Mitch McConnell. Is it McConnell?
God, I can't stand Mitch McConnell.
You have him and you have Trump, which I don't think any of them are good for the party.
No,
but I do think that the future of the Republican Party is DeSantis.
I do.
Because if you look at what happened
Look at
in
what
Florida, this is the first time a governor race was ever decided by 20 points.
20 points. Do people understand what 20 points is in a race?
It's almost what our friend Reagan did when he ran for re-election.
Yeah.
He won 49 out of 50 states. The only state he lost in was Minnesota because that's where who he was running against was from.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you look at DeSantis, and I think that Trump's personality kind of I shouldn't say kind of, I think it hurt him.
Yeah.
It didn't offend me because I'm kind of used to that, but I think DeSantis, I mean, what he did in Florida, whole state's red. He took Dade County, which was a blue county.
People loved it that he opened up schools.
Correct.
He opened up businesses.
He wouldn't let them teach kids under the age of 3 or 4. Under the age, not the age.
It was
under school grade.
I think it might have been 6th, or was it 3rd?
It was 3rd or 5th.
Something.
But he wouldn't let them teach them about sexual stuff.
Yeah.
And
Which,
so
I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't want school to teach my kid
at
anytime.
All.
Yeah, I
at
agree.
all. Not at all. Yeah. It's not your place. Teachers, you teach it, you're doing wrong.
Yeah, no,
it's not your place.
Totally agree. So, you see what DeSantis did, and the thing is, if you look at what happened in Virginia, it went to What's his name? Rumpkin. God, I'm killing his name.
Youngkin. Glenn Youngkin.
Rumpkin.
I was like, what are you talking about?
I'm hungry. I'm thinking about dinner. Yeah. So if you look at how this stuff is followed, parents are not like, oh yeah, parents have really woken up to what's going on in school, and some are okay with it.
Brings me back to
some
it.
Are not okay.
Shocked me about Amendment 4.
I don't disagree.
So, but we'll see. Republicans still have a chance of taking the Senate, but here's the thing: it's not a big deal because the president can veto.
Yeah, but it means that stuff can't get through as fast.
Yes.
It's not a.
This whole thing about needing to go electric is really questionable because our grid can't handle it. And it's just, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, okay? I'm not a climate denier. I'm not saying that there's not a better way than fossil fuels. But we're not there yet. And trying to make everyone go there by 2025, that's 3 years away. That's not far off in the future. They're not going to be able to do it.
Well, we'll see how that works out for her. But
yeah. Because listen, we're already having a few issues with the bus. It's just not going as far as they would hope. And
well, they said that this was a test in the mountains and in cold weather.
And I heard that it hit a deer already.
Oh, did it?
It hit a deer.
Wow. Yeah. Is everybody okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a bus going up against a deer.
Well, I meant the deer. Was the deer okay?
Yeah. The deer is now someone's supper. They gathered it off the side of the road, took it home, cooked it up with the possum stew.
So I have notes on that, but I thought they said the bus would go 120 to 150 miles, and then in cold weather and mountains, 80 to 120 miles each full charge? Yeah. Is it not doing that?
Well, it's just trying to figure out how you get it. Where you're stopping to do this. I want to see them go to Charleston. I think that's what they need to do. They need to.
Okay, but they can't.
But I'm saying they need to, because if you're going to make people have electric buses, the kids go to Charleston.
I'm not saying they don't.
So they need to see.
I'm saying you can't.
I know.
They don't need to take the trip for me to tell them it isn't going to work.
Well,
it's like saying
my big question is, and for people who didn't watch the last podcast, and if they'll make it through this, we've been going almost an hour.
Have we really?
Yeah, maybe about 45 minutes. In 80 miles, they're going to have to stop and charge for 3 hours. What are you doing with a bus full of kids?
I told you the statement. You can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't care if you say, well, if we stop in 80 miles, which from here in 80 miles, going to Charleston, they put you in maybe Elkins.
Yeah.
Is that how you go to Charleston?
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Around that way? Yeah.
Mike would probably know.
Yeah.
So if you're going to stop there and say, well, we're going to go bowl for 3, you can't. You can't do it.
And on the way home, late at night.
You got to stop in Elkins. And then once you go to Elkins, then the next 80 miles, I don't know how far Charleston is. It has to be more than 160 miles from here. But anyway.
Yeah. And the thing about that is, and this is what's funny, is the bus takes 6 batteries. So you're only getting 80 miles with 6 batteries.
It's 197 miles, so they have to stop twice to get there.
Oh,
now listen, I think it's a good idea, and I think they're giving us a bus to try. So
yeah.
I think that's great.
They're pushing this on something that I think should be tested more.
I think they're testing it. In all fairness to it, they're testing it here.
How so? Well, see, I can't even ask you how your vehicle is because you have gas.
Yes,
too.
And I already need 4 brand new tires, and I bought it in July.
But how many miles are on the car already?
Almost 21,000.
You bought in July.
That's a lot of miles.
That's a lot of miles.
I was in Ocean City yesterday.
Wow.
And then back to Winchester last
night. So what's the gas like in Maryland?
Oh, it's very high. The cheapest gas is in Front Royal, Virginia. Cheapest gas around.
Yeah.
Now, Ohio is probably cheaper, but there's no the gas in Wardensville. It's like $3.89. Today I paid in Front Royal $3.15.
Well, listen, I went to Kaiser the other day, and I was like, you know what? I'm in Kaiser. It's always cheaper. Mm-hmm. I'll get it in Kaiser. It was more expensive than Petersburg. Oh. I turned around and made the trip back home, and was like, I'll just fill up in Petersburg.
Yeah, so I try. Like, I've actually stopped. I was almost out of gas. And I stopped in Warrenton, Virginia, and put in $1 worth, like a gallon, to get to Front Royal, because it'll save me 15 gallons times 80 cents is what? It's like $12.
Yeah,
that's $12.
And for as much as you drive, that's a lot.
Yeah,
which really brings me to question why the red wave did not come. Mm-hmm. Because gas prices are killing people, man.
I don't think the red wave didn't come. I mean, I think maybe it didn't hit your expectation.
It wasn't a red wave. Yes, we won, and we'll probably control both.
You don't need to win by 4 touchdowns to win the game.
No, but it sure does feel a lot better.
It may make you feel better, but politics never is going to make you feel better. The thing that they said was that to Democrats, traditionally, abortion was what they pushed.
Yeah, which they did a lot.
And it wasn't the number one issue.
But it was second in exit polls.
It may have been more than earlier. They said it was 4th.
Yeah, we know how Democrats love to murder.
Well, killing babies is obviously
it's big business.
I don't even know. Anyway, I'm just shocked that that's something we're all cool with.
I love it when Christians say, "Oh, I don't believe in abortion, but I believe in a woman's choice." It's like me saying, I don't believe in murder, but I think I should be allowed to shoot my brother in the head.
Well, you wouldn't be the first person who wanted to do that. But,
hence the 2 ex-wives.
Yeah. Of course, I'm worth more alive than dead with my life insurance. I'm still... I took a new job at the company. So I'm driving more, so I'm hoping I still am worth more alive than dead. But yeah, it's... who knows? I mean, the end of the day... I have no clue.
There was a lot of questions.
The guy in Pennsylvania. Did you see the guy who won in Pennsylvania? So when I see stuff like that, I'm like,
did you see the jokes going around of him and Biden having a conversation?
Yeah, I did. I am the one who forwarded that to you today. So I don't know. I mean, it's a matter of it's all spin. And at the end of the day, I had someone tell me this like 20 years ago. They're like, I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. The government's out to screw you.
Yeah.
So there's something that if they keep us fighting,
someone said this. Doing. Remember, Democrats and Republicans are different wings to the same bird.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. So there's something.
There's not many people that would say, you know what? I want to get voted in office so that I can cut how long I can work here by doing term limits and make the government smaller so I don't need a job.
I understand.
They're not going to do that.
Well, some people use that as their career. Like politician,
like Fetterman,
yes,
who hasn't held a job yet. Bernie Sanders had never held a job.
Either is Biden.
Joe Biden never held a job.
So,
well, wait, he held a job with the Chinese with his son.
He was a consultant
the
there.
big man.
He was a consultant, but it's I don't think I think if the founding fathers would really look at what we're doing today, I think they'd be like,
yeah, it was, and that was the one thing that they put in for the people, by the people. And did you realize, and did if you go back and study history, that they maintained their jobs? They didn't. It wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna go get rich off of being a senator.
You become richer when you make less money being a senator.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that makes no sense.
Look at
what do you make
Pelosi's
as a senator? Oh, I make $40,000 a year. What's your net worth? $500 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did you hear all the senators that made more money during the pandemic because they knew what stocks to invest in?
I didn't get that email.
No. So, well, we can't solve all the world's woes because obviously the voters have spoken.
That's all that matters. It comes down to the vote.
So, when are we opening up the charter school?
I have mixed emotions on that because it still means that 88% of kids go to public school and 12% are homeschooled or private school. So the public school system still influences 88% of our children. And for some reason, and I applaud some of the new Board of Education, some reason as Christians, we just got out of politics altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people have asked me, why didn't I run and should I ran? And as you know, I seriously considered it. I really did. But I thought that I could make more of a difference with my voice in the podcast.
Well, you do have a voice for radio, a face for radio.
For radio. I have a voice for radio too.
You give good.
I love it. Gary Michael always tells me, he goes, "There's the voice of Petersburg."
We're in trouble. Oh my God.
But so my thing is, I'll try to make a difference with the podcast, and we did. We tried to make a difference, and you and I pushed and stumped for Amendment 4, and but unfortunately, now there's no oversight.
No. Yeah.
So what comes down? I wonder what and I'm waiting to see what happens with Loudoun County because it's not over yet. I'm wondering what happens when a person sues someone individually.
It'll never go public
over that.
That's the thing. All this stuff will be, there'll be a non-disclosure. You won't know what happens.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I wouldn't sign. If I was suing, I would have that in there. I would be like, oh, I'm going to sue you for a couple $1 million, but I'm also going to say that there are no non-disclosure agreements. Normally, though, NDAs are when they settle out of court.
Yeah.
So I would never settle out of court. I would make it go to court.
Here's the problem.
But most people are like, oh, you're going to pay me $20 million?
When somebody says, I'm going to pay you that much.
Yeah.
So the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yes. Yeah. But all it takes is one person to say, no. We're going to let the world see that you all voted on this. You all put the children in jeopardy, in danger. So
I wonder if Loudoun County, if the same thing happened there, where the state of Virginia, they have a state board that told them what to do. I wonder if that happened.
I don't know. We'd have to research what theirs, because I don't know if they're voted in.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're appointed.
It'd be interesting to see.
I mean, remember, each state is a little different.
Yeah, correct.
So, okay, well, that's our election coverage.
It's a lot of coverage.
Yeah, it is. A lot of tangents.
It's about as much coverage as my jeans have to do every day. I'm a big boy.
All those poor animals that had to die.
I'm healthy, though.
That's what the last doctor said?
I had a abdominal ultrasound, which took an hour and a half to do the abdominal ultrasound.
That's a lot of belly there that they got to cover.
I was like, geez, I'm like, are you finding everything okay? She's like, not really.
You know how much, it's not Vaseline. What's the...
It's lubricant.
Lubricant.
It's like KY.
Yeah. that they had to use
At
on
least
you?
it was warm. At least it was warm. She's like, it took us to like 20 years ago to learn that we should warm this up. I'm like, it feels good. At least it's warm.
Yeah. She's like, oh, that's one bottle gone. Let me get the next bottle.
So having 4 children, they normally have a bottle. She had like little tubes of it. She's like, so they're very nice people.
Yeah.
Scary. All right.
You gonna be all right? You gonna watch what you eat?
I didn't eat lunch yesterday, so last night I went to Outback and had a lot of fried food, and then I had a salad.
Fried foods, man.
Well, I had,
but that salad that takes all that fried stuff away.
And I had a Diet Coke. No, what did I have? I had bloomin' onion, coconut shrimp, and then a salad. That was my dinner.
Mercy.
Salad tasted good.
I cooked wings for you the other night.
I didn't eat them.
And we didn't fry them. We
really?
We don't, we
air
don't
fry.
We air fry.
Yeah,
we don't fry in grease.
I don't deep fry.
So
yeah, I do the same thing.
that'll help you out a little.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Every little bit helps.
I'm such a fan of bagels.
You like bagels?
Oh.
My daughter loves bagels.
Tell her to stay away. My cardiologist told me bagels would kill me, not bacon. He said bacon won't kill you, Justin. Don't eat those bagels.
Why? What's
He said
bread?
what we put in our bread is horrible.
Oh, she eats bagels. Like she can go through a whole thing of bagels in like 3 days.
One bagel is like 4 pieces of toast. And when I stop to get a bagel at Einstein's, I don't get just one bagel. I'm like, can I have 2?
8 pieces of toast. What are we putting? What's in bagels that's or bread products? I mean,
well, listen, when you make bread at your house, if you don't eat it within like 2-3 days, it goes bad. Bread now lasts for like a month. So there's something they're putting inside of there. I don't know
all of
what
that
it is.
stuff lasts so long because
Yeah.
they have to ship it and all that stuff.
Well, it used to not.
I mean, can you imagine how many days it actually takes beef to get from the slaughterhouse to the distributor?
Yeah.
To
That's why I buy all my beef locally. Flying W, Burlington.
Yeah.
So
there's actually a couple other beef places that have opened up that I would love to try.
here's the thing.
try.
A lot of them go through the Flying W, though. I mean, they may bring their beef, their cow, or whatnot. So
I love Australian grain-fed beef.
I like Japanese Wagyu personally, but that's my.
I don't know if I've had it. Maybe I have.
It's the best,
Probably.
It's the best beef in the world.
I probably have. I paid $100 for a steak one time.
That's cheap.
Just a steak.
Just type
That
in
that was the most.
Japanese.
My wife's like, "You're nuts," and I'm like, "Well, it was the last vacation we were on. We actually get to go on vacation once every 10 years." So
it is one of 4 Japanese breeds of beef cattle. It's shipped carrying area names.
what's the going rate per ounce? That's what you need.
Let me see here. What is the cost per pound?
I can't believe there's still no updates though on the voting.
It has to be. There's other Wagyu. Is it Wagyu? Why am I not saying it right now?
I don't know. If you looked up Mr. Magoo, you're in the wrong area.
What is the cost? It's beef tenderloin, Japanese Wagyu beef delivered to your door.
See, we need to hire a fact checker person that can do all this while we're talking, so I don't have to wait for you.
Sorry. A Japanese Wagyu, a ribeye, just a ribeye, which is 12 ounces, is $140.
Okay. So I paid $100 for a 6-ounce fillet. So that's about the same. So it probably was a Wagyu.
Japanese Wagyu ribeye with caviar, 100 grams of caviar is $313.
I've never had caviar.
It's okay.
Fish. Ugh.
It doesn't taste like you would think, but it's.
What does it taste like? Chicken?
Depends on the quality you get of caviar. It's not as bad as it sounds. So
Okay. Well, I think that's enough for today.
I need a nap.
We'll look at it and people will like made it 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Shut off. It's like, can you watch to the end?
That's a lot.
That's what we should do. We should just talk nonsense for the whole first 45 minutes, and then at the end give two really good minutes.
That's what we just did. Talked about Japanese Wagyu steak.
Yeah.
Any steak people. The best piece I had was in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And I had like 12 people for dinner. I was taken out, and we all got Japanese Wagyu. I think my bill was like $2,000 something. It was the best steak. And of course, Brazil, you've heard of Brazilian steakhouses. Argentina's the same way. They're very known for not their spices, but they're savory. And,
The best one I ever had was with my stepson in Maryland at a Greek restaurant.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, that steak was not expensive. That filet, I think I paid $35 for the filet, which is that's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the best
Was it the
one
seasoning?
I've ever had. Yeah, just tender. I mean, like, you know, when people say it melts in your mouth, if you do it right, it almost actually does feel like that.
I'm starving.
I am hungry.
I haven't
too.
eaten lunch.
Okay, we'll wrap it up, everyone.
I'm hungry. Turn this off.
Let's explore. We're going to get in so much trouble for this as it is if anyone makes it through. We might have to turn the comments off for this.
Well, listen, it's okay if you don't agree with us. I'm not offended if you don't agree. I mean, the thing is, people are like, you don't agree with this? I'm like, well, my principles are based on the Bible. You don't. I'm not. I didn't make them up. I'm agreeing with the Bible. You can be mad at the Bible, and then they're kind of like, well, I like Jesus chicken from Chick-fil-A, so I'm okay with it. So anyway,
My daughter loves Chick-fil-A now.
Jesus chicken.
I personally don't like it. If I was going to have a chicken, it would be Popeyes because of the spicy.
Two different types. I mean, we're talking about. I like Popeye's chicken. You can get the spicy, extra crispy. Love it. But they don't put that on a biscuit in the morning for me to eat.
See, I'm not a bread, like, I don't need bread with that.
No carb
Yeah.
left behind.
Yeah, I don't need that. But Popeyes, the hot, I like the spice.
You know what I like from Popeyes? The biscuits with honey.
Now, I will eat a Popeyes biscuit, but I don't want the honey. I don't put honey on it. I want the
I'm talking to
just
your daughter.
butter.
I'm talking to your daughter.
Yeah,
about
she.
this.
Oh, no.
Autumn, come here, Autumn. Yes. Come here.
Oh, you want to be in the podcast?
We got to talk to you about.
Say hello to everyone.
We got to talk to you about Chick-fil-A. Your daddy says you love
You
Chick-fil-A.
love Chick-fil-A, don't you? Love it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you like about it? You like the taste? You like the sandwich? You get the chicken sandwich?
No, I just get the chicken tenders.
Oh, the chicken tenders.
Isla likes it too. Yeah.
Isla likes it too.
I called them chicken dogs. I'd take Thomas there for in the mornings, and I'd get him I forget, it's a 4 count. It's like little pieces of chicken in a biscuit. Like, I'm like, Thomas, you want chicken dogs?
Do you eat the biscuits? You don't like the biscuits? Tell Uncle Justin though, he likes bagels too.
Oh, I love bagels. I had 2 yesterday. I learned last minute I had to drive to Ocean City for a customer, and I was like, oh my god, that's like 6 hours round trip. So yesterday I drove 580 miles. So I'm like, I need a bagel for the drive. So I stopped at Einstein and got 2 pretzel bagels. Had a big smile on my face. And then I had the crash like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, I need an energy drink.
And I saw her yesterday. She had a soft pretzel and dipping it in cream cheese.
Oh, I love you.
That's what she liked.
Next time, call me.
Call you. Okay, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Bye.